Now
on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
Happy damn Thanksgiving to you. It's so great to be a part of your morning festivities. Oh, I just said a curse word while family's around. I'm sorry. I'm just so excited about Thanksgiving. I got overly exuberant. I apologize, Julie. Julie Gunlock is back from her world travels, and she's here to share Thanksgiving turkey tips with all of you. Also, I have friends who are doing a 5K turkey trot today. Are you going to be out there running a race of sorts?
No, I won't. I'm doing the show, Larry.
Meredith, I know. That's the only reason I'm not doing it, because there's one.
Yeah, that's the only reason I'm not doing it, too. Yeah, that's it. That's the only reason.
There you go. Meredith actually derided us. Like, I'm so glad we're not those people who do turkey trots. I'm like, actually, I am one of those. I used to do it, but the turkey trot I used to do all the time was the day after Thanksgiving, which makes more sense. You know, you got to burn it off.
I always look at those turkey trot people and I think, do they know they can sleep in? Like, they don't have to.
Well, if you're on your way to a turkey trot, I hope that you've enjoying our little banter this morning as we sort of keep you updated on the holiday, yes, but also items that are in the news, the conversation we just had about these death threats against the incoming Trump administration members. Also, coming up later in the program in just 30 minutes, we'll check in with one of our favorites, especially on the holidays, Jane Hampton Cook, presidential historian. 8:05, Terry Schilling, American Principles Project. And then at 8:35, we'll check in with the Washington Post's Aaron Hutcherson about some recipe developments. Julie Gunlock, Larry O'Connor, Thanksgiving. What more do you want? We'll be live tomorrow, too, by the way, for Black Friday. I just want to button things up here because I couldn't get to it. But I do, people who are saying, oh, well, as horrible as the swatting and the death threats and the bomb threats are to the incoming Trump people, it's terrible, but it's just random. It's not connected to anything. It's not like Donald Trump's speech on January 6th where he implored people to peacefully go and protest at the Capitol. He was going to be thrown in jail for inciting an insurrection for his speech on January 6th. But this is totally different when it's Democrats. Is it? Because I remember Joe Biden saying this.
We must be honest with each other and with ourselves. Too much of what's happening in our country today is not normal. Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic.
That was Joe Biden, the uniter-in-chief, President of the United States, speaking in front of Independence Hall, awash with red, as he screamed at what we now know to be, who did he say, Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans. That represents over 50% of the American electorate, who just overwhelmingly confirmed that they want Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans to be leading this government. And he just said they represent an extremism that threatens the very foundation of our republic. When you're president, people actually take you seriously when you say stuff like that. Yeah. And now we're seeing the manifestation of it. Joe Biden needs to come out and condemn all of this. And by the way, it's not good enough. Take back what you said. Take back the things you said about the majority of the people who you still ostensibly lead constitutionally in this country. He should take it all back. He won't. No, he's too stubborn. He's too much of a jerk to do it. All right, let's move on to another topic here having to do with these tariffs that Donald Trump put out a True Social post early in the week that said that on day one he was levying a 25% tariff against Mexico and Canada unless they took care of the migrant problem. We have a caravan of migrants heading toward the border right now. They're trying to get in before Trump becomes president because we're going to secure the border, as you know. He said 25% tariffs on both Canada and Mexico until they fix the migrant problem and stop the fentanyl. And this is what mainstream media told you would happen. Here's ABC News.
Donald Trump's threats are against America's three top trading partners, Canada, Mexico, and China. So we're talking about tariffs that would touch nearly every part of the U.S. economy. This could dramatically raise prices on everything from cars, oil, toys, clothes, electronics. And some economists estimate that if Donald Trump makes good on his campaign promise for higher tariffs, that could cost the average U.S. household more than $2,600 per year.
Boy, that's responsible reporting, isn't it? Now, if you listen to us and our programming and alternative news options that you have that don't get filtered through the lens of ABC, CBS, NBC, and all the rest of the propagandists out there, you would know that the threat of tariffs is just that. This is a threat. This is negotiating. We talked about this at length through the campaign and also earlier this week when this came down. To understand Donald Trump and how he does and why he does what he does, read The Art of the Deal. Newt Gingrich has been saying this for years. When you read The Art of the Deal, you understand about 90% of the stuff you don't understand about Donald Trump. This was to throw down the beginning of a negotiation with these countries to say, listen, we have something you want. We are the biggest consumer market on the planet, and we're about to get bigger because our economy is about to be unleashed. You want us to buy your stuff. So if you want your economy to continue thriving, you're going to play ball with us. We have what you want, which is the giant consumer market. Now you have something we want, and that is the ability to stop these problems at our border. You give us what we want, we'll keep giving you what we want, what you want. That's all this is, Julie. And by the way, and I'm no genius, as you know. I know this because I've been listening to the Trump people. That ABC News reporter, Selena Wang, it's like she's never actually bothered to listen to what Howard Lutnick, then the head of the transition, and now the incoming Commerce Secretary. Here's what he specifically said about the tariffs.
You are correct. If I raise the tariff on just this particular idiosyncratic product,
yes,
right, it will be more expensive. I agree. But what would I do? I wouldn't buy Fiji water. I'd buy, another brand of water. I mean, yes, you are completely correct. If we don't make that particular product, that will go up. Anybody who says it's inflation is completely wrong because the other product hasn't gone up. There's only one way to get inflation. Print more money and give it to all of us. When we all have more money, everything is more expensive.
Howard,
so here was the idea. Put a tariff out and say to the company, if you come to America and you produce in America, you get a tax credit for your tariff. So come to America, build in America, and I've spoken to lots. This came from discussions with lots of industry groups, and they said, if you give us 2 years, we can manufacture in America. We'll bring our production to America, and if you give us back our tariff money, we're good with that.
That was Lutnick a month ago explaining this. And it's like, and the people who are in charge of reporting news to Americans are incredibly ignorant about the news and about this administration.
They are. It also is, Trump knows 30% of Mexico's economy relies on exports to the USA, and only 2% of ours rely on exports to Mexico. There is an imbalance here in our favor, and he is going to use that.
He's going to exploit it 100%.
It's
to get what is in our best interest.
Right.
That's an America First policy.
What's in our interest? I mean, these cartels are as powerful as some governments. I mean, they have military might. It is very frightening what these cartels can do to the United States. It's absolutely within our national interest. This is actually a national security issue, not just I'm trying to get cheaper products.
Totally. And despite the way this was reported and what everybody was screaming about, here we go on day one, inflation, the tariffs, it's going to cripple our economy. What really happened was the day after the announcement, the peso to the dollar on international currency exchanges plummeted. The peso was worth like 5 or 10% less than it had been worth before Trump made that statement. Imagine that going on for the next 50 days. If you're the president of Mexico, this is a crisis. So what do? Well, she picked up the phone and she talked to the incoming president. And late last evening at 7 o'clock, Donald Trump put out this statement. Just had a wonderful conversation with the new president of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum Pardo. She has agreed to stop migration through Mexico and into the United States, effectively closing our border. We also talked about what can be done to stop the massive drug inflow into the United States and U.S. consumption of these drugs. It was a very productive conversation. One phone call, and the president of Mexico says, absolutely, we'll do whatever we can to work with you. Where was Joe Biden making that phone call for the last 4 years?
Let's not forget, Larry. Let's not forget, Larry. No matter what this president does, they will say, oh, this is going to hurt America. This is going to hurt America. Yes. They don't care about America. They hate Trump. That is the reason they are going to complain about every policy move that he does.
The good news is you have alternatives now, and you don't even pay. Probably the only time you hear ABC and CBS or CNN is when we play you what they're saying.
Right.
And let's keep it that way, because we've got 4 glorious years ahead of us. It's 7:15, WMAL. Going to the Commanders game this Sunday. As you know, I've been referring to them as the Command Skins this season, Julie,
Yes.
because one of my favorite things about going to the Commanders games right now, other than the fact that the seats are filled and everyone's in a good mood, whenever they score a touchdown, as you know, we sing our song. And they put up on the big screen there the new lyrics that, "Hail to the Commanders." And I'm telling you, I look around the stadium. Everybody in the stadium sings, "Hail to the Redskins."
Right.
Everyone.
Right.
Nobody has bought into this, right? Now,
Right.
I've sadly kind of given up hope that they will bring back the name Redskins. I think it is the headwinds on that and the uphill fight. I don't know. I shouldn't say I've given up hope, but it's very slim. But as you know, I've been saying this all year long, that the real compromise that this new ownership could do with the fan base is if you want to keep your Commander's name, keep your Commander's name. Bring us back our logo. It was the greatest logo. I would say greatest logo in all of sports, but I do love the Red Wings logo. The Detroit Red Wings hockey team has an incredible, iconic logo.
Yep.
But in football, in the NFL, it's the greatest logo. There's no doubt about it. And
Sure.
for years has been the best-selling logo.
Yeah.
No one likes the W. No, on the helmet. It's awful.
Nope.
The players don't like it, I assure you. They would love to have that back. And so I've been saying, I've been on the record all year talking about this. And there was an indication from ownership that this is a possibility, because at the beginning of the season, in the little Hall of Fame over at Northwest Stadium, where they have the Super Bowl trophies and stuff, they opened an exhibit honoring the logo, honoring the Native American artist who in the 60s created the logo. And to me, I took that as a message. This could happen. This could happen. And if you'll remember, last week we told you about the Senate committee hearing that happened where the Senate had to authorize the D.C. government taking control of the land where RFK Stadium is right now so that they can build a new football stadium for the team. And Senator Steve Daines of Montana, the home of the Indian tribe, where the artist that created that logo lives, he made this an issue and said, you are disrespecting this Indian tribe, you are disrespecting the people of Montana by refusing to have this logo. Now, I want you to hear Senator Daines was on Fox Business yesterday, and listen to this.
We were calling out leaders on a case of really woke gone wrong. The irony that they were canceling Native American culture as the DEI movement went way too far. Look, this is honoring a Blackfeet chief who was born in Montana. He's highly esteemed. The Blackfeet tribe of Montana, their current chairman and the tribal council signed a letter in strong support to bring the logo back. It honors Indian country. So we've had good discussions with the NFL and with the Commanders. There's good faith negotiations going forward that's going to allow this logo to be used again. Perhaps revenues going to a foundation that could help Native Americans in sports and so forth. We're making good progress, and based on the good faith negotiations, I made a decision to support this bill yesterday in the committee.
All right, so according to Senator Daines, they are involved in good faith negotiations with the NFL and team ownership to bring back that logo. And I got to tell you, other than the team winning and having a quarterback for the future that seems like there's really a real program put together here that will lead to a future of success and maybe even a championship, bringing back that logo would be the icing on the cake.
And it is a nice compromise. It is a nice compromise between bringing back the Redskins name and at least having that logo, which I think would mean a lot to people who really do want the Redskins name to come back.
Well, all of these rapid-fire, long-lasting, permanent decisions that were made in 2020 after George Floyd with the Black Lives Movement and the riots and the arson and all the DEI pressure that was put on these corporations, I hate that they did it. But I'm encouraged through the leadership, we talked about it yesterday, of Robbie Starbuck and the incredible work that he's done with Walmart and John Deere and Coca-Cola and Toyota and all these other corporations. They're all ending those programs. They're realizing how divisive they've been. If the ownership of the Commanders wants to unite this community, and I do believe they do want to unite this community because that sells seats, and oh, by the way, sells a lot more T-shirts and hats with that brand new logo on it. If they really want to do that, they'll give this gift back to the people, back to the fans of this team, and I'll be the first one to buy brand new paraphernalia. I got a lot of Redskins. I still wear my Redskins stuff to the stadium right now, but if they brought back the logo, I'd buy all brand new stuff. I'd happily embrace it.
Yeah,
It would
absolutely.
and it would send that message that the team is there for everyone in the community, not
That's
just
right.
the politically correct.
I like that you provided them a bit of a money-making opportunity here.
Trust me, they don't need to. They're way ahead of me. It's 7:23. It's 7:37. It's O'Connor and Company on this Thursday morning, Thanksgiving Day, and yes, we're live. Of course we are. We want to hang out with you. And by the way, I'm overwhelmed by the response on social media from so many of you who are expressing their gratitude that Julie and I are here with you while you're getting ready for this holiday. Trust me, we're the ones who are grateful. We love having the job that we have and being able to be here. And let's face it, unlike our other colleagues throughout the day, we're done at 9 o'clock. So, sort of we get all the credit for working today, but really, I mean, everyone's down. I'll be lucky if by the time we're done, my family is awake. So
yes, exactly. Yes.
Meanwhile, coming up later in the program, we've got much to get to. Starting at 8:05, we're going to check in with Terry Schilling of American Principles Project. And then 8:35, Aaron Hutcherson from the Washington Post. He's got some interesting recipes that he's working on, and also some tips on how to not make the mistakes that so many people make on Thanksgiving. So, Julie, let's get to it with, honestly, my favorite conversation on holidays is with Jane Hampton Cook. She's a presidential historian. She's got a new book series, by the way, called Revolutionary Readers. These are a series of children's books about our revolution and founding, and it's ramped up and geared for our 250th birthday coming up next year. Jane Hampton Cook, happy Thanksgiving. Oh, we just lost her connection. All right, well, we'll reconnect with her right now. Here, let me give you her phone number on the air. So you, oh, no, I shouldn't. That would be wrong. That would be terrible. Although Jane's a very friendly person, I'm sure she'd be happy to get your text messages, everybody. Revolutionary. So, do you listen? Thanksgiving is a very American holiday. I know the Canadians pretend like they've got a Thanksgiving, but it's our holiday.
Yeah, not true.
Do you sort of talk about our founding and the Pilgrims and all of that aspect of it and how those explorers and settlers came here?
Yeah, and honestly, Larry, I would say as someone who sort of comments on parenting, I think it is critical. It's not critical. You should be doing this. You should be talking to every 4th of July, every presidential election. There was the anniversary of women getting the right to vote, which frankly makes me question if that ever should have happened. Just kidding.
I have
just
mixed
kidding.
feelings.
Yes, mixed feelings. But I mean, I talked to my children about what that meant, what the suffragettes did in the United States, why it was important. On the 4th of July, you talk to your children about patriotism, particularly at a time when your young people are taught to hate their country.
Yeah.
So on Thanksgiving, very important, talk about the history. I'm so glad we're going to talk to Jane Hampton Cook about it.
You have to offset what they're hearing
yes.
at the public schools. You have to offset what they're getting. In fact, one of my favorite moments this week, Piers Morgan's been doing some very interesting panel discussions on his show in England. And unlike in America, Piers Morgan doesn't feel obliged to only have one conservative and then 9 screaming liberals. So he had a pretty balanced panel, but do we have the guest? No, yeah. Oh, so our friend Dr. Kevin Roberts, the head of Heritage Foundation, was on the panel, and there was a liberal screaming at him about it. Oh, okay. I'll finish my story in a moment, but I do want to get to Jane Hampton Cook. Jane, thank you. Happy Thanksgiving. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, thanks for having me. Happy Thanksgiving to you.
Listen, I've been reading your Substack here, and you've got an article. I did not realize this. One of President George Washington's major acts his first year was to give a Thanksgiving proclamation in 1789. But people in Congress opposed that. So it's so typical that Congress comes up with something to oppose George Washington proclaiming a Thanksgiving Day in the first year of our new republic. Yeah, some things don't change. What was then founder?
What was the objection?
I think it was Alexander Ocasio-Cortez who did it. By the way, what was the objection?
I think they thought, they were asking the question, does the president need to meddle, so to speak, in people's giving thanks to God? I just didn't think it was a federal thing. And maybe they were missing the symbolism of it, right? And it was under the new Constitution, there was a lot of good feelings. And so George Washington responded by sending all of the proclamations to the governors so that they could pass the law. So, yes, I thought it very fun.
So basically, they were just saying it's not the federal government's role to encourage people to pray to God and thank them for. Okay, so I'm sorry. It wasn't Alexander Ocasio-Cortez. It was Representative Pand Rawl who was doing this. I think he was really heavy.
I get it. Yes, we get it. Rand
well,
Paul, we get it.
Thankfully, Washington was able to make this proclamation. But, this is an ongoing debate. It's not, it was Washington. No, it was Lincoln. No, it was Franklin Roosevelt. Well, who really proclaimed Thanksgiving in America?
Well, they did incidental Thanksgivings, like occasional ones. And then it was Lincoln who made it an ongoing year-after-year holiday. So that's why there's confusion, is that you do have some occasional Thanksgiving proclamations, but it was Lincoln who said to the country, look, we've issued the Emancipation Proclamation, let's come together, and every year let's have this Thanksgiving. And it took the southern states, about 10 years before they participated.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Larry.
No, I was just going to, because we had some trouble getting Jane Hampton Cook, so I would love, can you carry over and talk to us a little bit further in our next segment? Oh, good, because I want to get into the history of it, but also how it resonates today as well with all of the conflicts. We keep hearing that we're more divided than ever. I don't think that's true. We have not had an actual civil war lately. That was about 160 years ago. So we'll continue with Jane Hampton Cook coming up. We've never been more divided. Well, there was that whole Confederacy and maybe we were a little more divided then. But I'm no historian. Jane Hampton Cook is. She sticks with us for one more segment in a moment. It's Thanksgiving morning, and Larry and Julie are right here with you as you stuff your bird and get it in the oven and begin the fixings. We're having a conversation with presidential historian Jane Hampton Cook. Check out her Substack. It's really simple, janehamptoncook.substack.com. Really informative, edifying stuff, especially during the holidays. I love reading your stuff, Jane. And sort of this whole idea that, coming out of this election and the nation is divided, although less divided than before, considering, we had a pretty resounding statement made. And when you look at the red-blue map of our nation, it's a pretty solid message from the voters. But things still seem somewhat divided. A lot of people are concerned about going to Thanksgiving with political divisions. Is this really new for this country? I keep hearing that this is new, but I don't know. We've been a sort of contentious people, we Americans, since our founding.
Well, and you could argue, that the Revolutionary War was a civil war. But yeah, I think that, certainly compared to the Civil War, the division that we see now is not the same. However, we've kind of been in a cold civil war, I think, with words. Yeah. And that's too. And I think the mainstream media was really driving this don't go to your family's house for Thanksgiving if they don't agree with you. I think some of that just seems to be stirred up by one segment of the culture, but I don't think it's a widespread problem.
Agreed.
I want to talk also a little bit about the history of it, and I've always had a question. We know that Lincoln declared Thanksgiving a national holiday on the last Thursday in 1863, but today it's so connected to the Pilgrims and their sort of joint dinner with the Native Americans in 1621.
When they ate lobster, by the way.
That's right. But at the time of Lincoln declaring it a national holiday, did he connect it to the Pilgrims, to that early dinner, or was it just a day of thanks?
I think for a while they didn't know if it was the Pilgrims or the Puritans in Boston that started Thanksgiving. And so then they found in the middle of the 1800s, they found some of the Pilgrims' writings that had actually been stolen by the British during the Revolutionary War. And that's what gave them the realization, they were the ones, because they wrote about it in their journals about Thanksgiving. So that's how it became affiliated with the Pilgrims. And they continue to do it year after year. In the Northeast, Thanksgiving was a yearly thing, but the state governors appointed the day of Thanksgiving until Lincoln made it a national holiday.
Thank you.
I was telling an anecdote about Piers Morgan had Kevin Roberts from Heritage Foundation on a panel, and somebody was screaming about, the idea that Trump's going to cut the federal government and fire federal employees and sort of reduce the thing. And Kevin Roberts' response was, you should read some other history books other than Howard Zinn, which I just thought was the best little beast mode sort of twist the knife. But it is true. I mean, it's the reason that you're writing your children's books. There is such a skewed perspective in our public schools right now. You're an author. Why do certain authors get this sort of monopoly on textbooks and assigned reading in our schools?
Well, I think it's just the ideology and not looking at the original sources. That's what I try to do. I try to look at, what did Washington say about Thanksgiving? He wanted to render our government, national government, a blessing to all people. And that was in a 1789 Thanksgiving proclamation. So, I'd like to see that it's got to be a culture change. The left has grabbed a hold of Howard Zinn. And so, there are people like me pushing back and saying, hey, this is what they said. Well, isn't this cool? Look, there's a great story here. Let's make it a movie.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of thing, that needs to happen more and more.
Jane Hampton Cook, we are so excited about your series of children's books. They're great readers. If your kids are just learning to read, these are scaled for their reading ability, by the way. And if they're going to be reading something, instead of reading about Clifford the Big Red Dog, how about reading about America? Revolutionary Readers. It's a great series. And I have a thought, this 250th birthday, whether you want to call it the quarter millennial or the semi-quincentennial, which is my favorite, whatever it is, President Trump is already promising a huge celebration and a real historic moment in our country. And I expect you're going to be a frequent guest to sort of give your commentary on how this is rolling out next year. So keep your phone near you, please, for O'Connor and Company.
Okay. I'd love to do that, very much so.
Great. Happy Thanksgiving, Jane.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving. Bye-bye.
It's 7:54.